20 years ago, Lotus released a car that would become something of an icon. It was small, light, relatively low on power, and nice to look at. Today, it's making essentially the same car, albeit with a few differences. The engine still sits in the middle, it's based on an aluminium bonded chassis, and it's still pretty. Now there's a new iteration, and it's quite mad.
In the last 20 years, that formula hasn't really changed all that much. However, in its spare time, Lotus has been getting really serious. The Cup 250 is the most hardcore, lightest, purest, bestest the Elise can possibly be. Lotus's founder, Colin Chapman, was quite big on all things lightweight, and so's this.
The 250 takes the best bits of its predecessor, the 220, and makes it more. Or should that be less? It's 21 kilos lighter than the 220, that's thanks to forged alloys, carbon-backed bucket seats and a lightweight battery. Without a driver, it's just 931 kilos, which is essentially nothing. If you want to be even more lightweighty about it, you can spec a carbon pack and lose a further 10 kilos.
With me on board, that'll make this thing around 1,000 kilos, a little bit more if I've had a big breakfast. Now, in the middle of the car sits a 1.8 litre 4-cylinder supercharged engine that kicks out 243 brake horsepower and 184 pound-foot. Lotus says it'll do 0 to 62 in 4.3 seconds, and with the roof on, 154 miles an hour.
Numbers and weight look good, but what about the under-the-skin dynamic stuff? A lot of it is the same as the 220. The 250's wing gives it 66 kilos of downforce at 100 miles an hour. It's got eye-back springs, adjustable front anti-roll bars, AP racing brakes up front, and Brembos at the back.
Now, Lotus has seen fit to give its new child some new shoes. The tyres at the back are the same width as the 220, but they're wider at the front in theory to give it better turn-in and grip. Each of those wheels are shod in a set of super sticky Yokohama AO48. In theory, again, that'll make this thing grip like nothing else.
There is, of course, a downside to all this lightweight hardcore kit. This is not a comfortable car. As standard, there are no carpets inside. Its suspension may get it around Lotus's test track 4 seconds quicker than the old car, but can you imagine it being easy on the arse when you're on the road? And if you're driving in town, you can forget about aircon and a radio because those are options as well. And the steering is unassisted, so you'll look like a fool trying to park it up.
What we have here is not a sensible car at all. First, there's the price. It's a little over £45,000, and that's before you start putting things like carbon packs and what have you on it. It's hard to get into, you can't see out of the back. It's heavy to steer, and it'll be pretty uncomfortable trundling round town. However, this isn't meant for trundling round town. It's meant for stuff like this. What's it like? Well, first of all, we need to come clean a little bit. This isn't the lightest it could possibly be because we have air conditioning and there's carpets and NVH stuff, which is all optional extra and adds a little bit of weight. But in the grand scheme of things, not all that much. This is a featherweight. It's so light and you can feel it. So if you look at the steering, for example, it isn't electrically assisted. You have to do all the hard work yourself. But because the car weighs nothing and because it's so direct, it's an absolute joy at speed. These Yokohamas are so grippy, so grippy. You get them warm and you have quite a lot of difficulty getting this thing unstuck. I tried pushing it round corners harder, faster each time, and well, you can get it wrong because I did. But this isn't a car for sideways hoonery or anything like that. It's a very pure car. It's there to work with you to get the best lap time, to get the best out of the vehicle, the best out of you. And when the two of you work in harmony, you do achieve some pretty good results. The gearbox is an absolute joy. The clutch is nice and short, the bite is just in the right place, and it's such an easy action. You can delicately move it from ratio to ratio. It's how a manual gearbox should be. This car's real party piece though is the engine, that 1.8 supercharged jobby. The way it delivers its power is something else. That supercharger just gives it that lightness of touch, and it revs so fast. Partly that's because the engine itself is so good and it pulls so strongly and it sounds awesome. It makes a dirty little noise and you get just a little bit of supercharger whine, just a little bit to let you know that it's working. But it's also because this thing weighs nothing. No car weighs 921 kilos today. A few weigh less, but they're kit cars or, don't have enough wheels. This is a special car. This is a track car. This is a car for someone who wants to have the best Elise they can, who wants to be able to go to the track, roof off, and have some fun in it. This is easily the best Elise I've driven. Hell, it's one of the best Lotuses. And this thing laps Hethel's circuit way quicker than the 220 did, and it would cause a lot of trouble for people on track days, especially if the people in the bigger, faster stuff have no idea what they're doing. The speed this thing can generate, it's a giant killer.
This is Lotus at its hardcore finest. The 250 is fast, frantic, and encourages you to simply be better at driving quickly. 20 years on, the Elise is still one of the best handling cars out there, and one of the most fun.